Hi, everybody, and welcome to PD in your PJs. I'm so excited to be here with you for this half-hour webinar. You should hear me talking now. I do want to remind you that we are recording this session, and you will get that sent to you in an email shortly after we conclude tonight. But the best thing is that we'll also send the slides, so you can go back through those at your own pace and click on all the links and take a closer look at the resources that Claudia is sharing. Those will come to you in the same email. We will take a few minutes for questions at the end. So if you're thinking about something that's specific to this topic, you can type it in the question box. I do also want to tell you to be sure to fill out the survey. That's going to pop up on your screen after we conclude. We value your feedback, and that's how we get better and know which webinars you're interested in or what we can do to better serve you. So be sure to give us your feedback. And then as a bonus, we also pick a t-shirt winner every week from those responses. So don't forget to complete that survey later. Quick intro, I'm Julie. I'm just out of the high school ELA classroom where I was a teacher for 18 years. I'm on the teacher community team now at Seesaw, and you can see there where you can contact me. If you are new to Seesaw or you're just getting started, be sure to check out all of our resources at ideas.seesaw.me, or remember that you can look at all of our past and upcoming webinars by accessing the calendar that you can see at web.seesaw.me/PDs. I'm so excited to be here tonight with Claudia. She and I have just been chatting for the last few minutes, and I've learned a lot just in the 10 minutes we were talking. She's teaching now in a third grade two-way dual language classroom in Texas, and she's going to explain all the great ways that she uses Seesaw with her students. She is on shared devices. She's been with iPads in the past and is currently also on some Chromebooks, so she can tell you about how to use Seesaw on both of those different device setups. I'm going to kick it over to her, so you're going to see her screen in just a second, and she'll take it from there. I'm so excited to hear everything she has to tell us. Okay, Claudia, it's coming your way. Just click the button when you see it.
Okay, it's there. Can you hear me?
Okay, we're good. Yeah, we're good. We can see your screen and we can hear you, so take it away.
All right. Hi. Like she said, my name's Claudia. I'm going to start out just by sharing a few ways that I use Seesaw in my classroom. So I'm in a two-way dual language program, which means we have students that are where Spanish is their first language, learning English, and then we also have opt-in students where English is their first language and they're learning the Spanish side of it. So Seesaw is a perfect way to get my students to practice both languages, to work with their partners, bilingual partners, and just to share what they're doing in the classroom at home. So the main reason that I feel Seesaw is just such a benefit to our classroom is because it's allowing them to build that academic language, the social language, and it's just a fun way to encourage them to practice and, you know, to take risks and just to try new things. So let me start out with a few examples of what we do in Seesaw. So I do a lot of app smashing, and I'm going to show a few examples of that towards the end. But a lot of things you can do straight in Seesaw. So one thing, just here, always providing sentence stems. So one thing that I do for my kids, of course, using a lot of sentence stems to model how you would either write or speak and having them practice it. So for this example I have on here for Superstorms, they took a picture of their book. This is a story we were reading in our Journeys book. And then they just use the label tool and use the sentence stems that I have posted up in the classroom or up on our Promethean board. And then they just start, the author's purpose is to inform us, and they list some facts. So that's just a quick, you know, something simple that they were able to pick up on. These are some of the first things that I teach them how to do. The second one, again, another picture. Here they put a star next to the title because we're learning about text features, and then they underline or circle some sentences showing us some details. This is also a great time, once they do this, they can go and record themselves speaking it. So here they are, you know, practicing the language. Let me go to the next one. Here's another example. Again, these are the quick, easy things that you can do to try it if it's something that you're doing new for the first time. So here's another story, making connections, book reviews. So if it's a book that we've read or a book that we want to read, they take a quick picture of it and then they tell me why they would want to read this book. Or again, always posting those sentence stems, and they would tell me this is a book I read, this is something I liked, and then because, and they'll, you know, complete that sentence stem And we have sentence stems that we can use, in English and Spanish, just depending. I do the ELAR part of it. I have two partners, so we're in a trio for our dual language program. I do the English language arts and social studies in Spanish. One of my other partners does Spanish language arts and then science and Spanish, and the third one does math and English. So we have a little variety of what we can do with our kids, and it's also a great way for us to see what's going on in each other's classrooms, and we can kind of build on, okay, so I know she read this in her classroom, let me build and do a writing activity off of it also. Okay, so let's see. So here's another one, and I do have links on some of them. I didn't want to go and play all of them because, whoops, sorry, because it'll just take some time. But when you go back and look through the slides, some of them do have, if you click on the image, it'll go and send you to a link in Seesaw where you can hear the recording. And, it's just them reading whatever they're trying to tell me, or using those sentence stems, giving them the chance to practice the language. Here's another one. We were reading, I think it was a Scholastic article, and they found one of the students was like, what's persistent mean? Well, let's talk about it. So that was a great opportunity for me to, to build their vocabulary. So they took a picture of the word, they underline, using our context clues, underline the sentences around it, something that helped them figure out what it meant, and then they just wrote a quick reflection on something that helped them understand what that word meant. And if I'm going too fast, just stop me. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. Here's let's see. This one was adjectives. So I don't just want them, so when we did adjectives, I wanted them to give me adjectives to describe themselves, but I also wanted them to practice writing incomplete sentences, and I wanted to see if they actually knew what the word meant and not just, listing words that they weren't sure of. So once they did this activity, they also took a picture of it in Chatterpix, and then if you could see the line on this one, that's their little mouth. So let me see if I can play that one. And I'll just play a little clip. But this is on adjectives, so the student was describing herself and then practicing using more academic vocabulary.
I have some things that describe me. Smart. I am so smart when my brain works. Shy. Sometimes I'm shy when it's the first day of school. Silly. Sometimes I'm silly. Kind.
So that's just a short example of something they could do. And this is using another app, Chatterpix, but it's pretty easy to use, and that just gives them makes it a little bit more fun. It makes it a little bit more engaging, so they, they love doing the Chatterpix. Let me go back to this one. So another thing that I do often also is use resources that I already have. So I added a link down here that I use for different resources as far as for intervention. This is one activity that I did with the student. I took a screenshot of a page to practice vocabulary. I put that into Seesaw, and then I typed in the labels of the different words they were going to use. So once they had that in Seesaw, they would move the labels around to complete each sentence to make it make sense. Once they finished that, then they went back and read them, and we talked about it. So that's an activity that you could do with them one-on-one, or if you're working with one small group, these other students could be doing that on their own, and then you can go back and listen to it. So but again, it was just taking a screenshot on my iPad, and you can take a picture of it, but with the screenshot, the picture comes out clearer, and it's easier to see. So then this other activity, again, I got the resource for on the Florida Center for Reading Research. This we did together. So I called the student back, and they read the sentence, and we talked about, okay, what does this word mean and why? So let me play this one real quick. And this is just helping our
when
kids
someone is interested, is he looking for or making wishes?
So then there, the student, he paused it. We talked about it. We talked about what gaze means. We talked about just different examples. He typed out his answer and then he continued. So you can do that throughout, you know, where they pause, type something, and then continue. But again, it's just a way to help them build vocabulary, and then they can go back and look at this. And it's also something that can be shared with parents at home. So again, this link, the Florida Center for Reading Research, it'll take you straight to the website. And let me just show real quick. And it has just different activities for students based on whatever grade. And then it's just a ton of great things that you could use depending on what you need. All right, so let's see. So inferencing, dual language, gen ed, whatever, our kids need help making inferences. So this is just something quick that I like to do, putting some images in Seesaw with the sentence stem. Like I said, always using sentence stems to help them build that vocabulary and just to model for them. This one, I put the image in Seesaw with the sentence stem. And then the students on this one, instead of copying and editing and making their own copy of the photo, they just commented under it. So with the comment, then we were all able to see each other's comments. And then once I approved them, then they were able to, once I approve each comment, then they were able to see each other. And then we discussed about, okay, this was a good inference. Why would this one maybe not be a good inference? But just so you could see some of the comments. So it's just, you know, I infer the boy's crying because his face looks mad, and then talking about, well, why do you think it's mad? How do you know, he's upset? How do you think when I comment he's in pre-K because he's a kid? Well, look at the picture. Why do you think he's in pre-K? So helping them make inferences. But this is something really easy that you can do with anything in slides. I use Google Slides often, and I'm going to switch over to one that I have real quick. So this is just I created this worksheet, and something you could type up. You could either do it in Google Slides or Google Drawing. I typed up whatever we were covering at the time, and then when you're ready to put it into Seesaw, what I do, I go File, Download As, and then I download it as a JPEG. This will make it so once I put it into Seesaw, they can add labels, they can draw over it, but once you export it and download it as a JPEG, then you just go to Seesaw, and the same way, you go to the screen, the same way you would add anything else, you would just upload that. Sorry, I think my screen is, there it goes. You would just upload that activity, and this was one that I did similar to that, where I just uploaded it, and then they typed, they drew over it. So that's just something quick that you can do. Here's another one. Character changes. And I have a lot of files that I've found on Teachers Pay Teacher for free, and also a lot that I've purchased that I just, instead of printing them all out, I just quick screenshot, put it into Seesaw, and then the kids do it there instead of having to make all those copies, task cards, anything else like that. But if you wanted to create your own, just go into Google Slides or Google Drawing, type it up, export it, and then it's pretty easy. So let me go back to the presentation. And this one was one, the second example is one that I did find on Teachers Pay Teachers. Like I said, there's tons of free ones that you can find on there. So these are just some examples in math. Seesaw is a great way. Take a picture of what they're learning, record them a video of them describing how they found a problem, using that language, using the vocabulary words, because that's, what we want them to really, or a lot of times, just in my experience, that's where they struggle with the vocabulary. So having them use it as often as they can.
We have 634, 741, and 720.
And then this, once you go back and see, it's a little assessment. You can tell, okay, they're reading it correctly, so they know their place value. All right, so these are some examples. I love my first 5 years teaching. I was a first grade dual language teacher. Then I moved districts, so I was a bilingual teacher second grade, but it was early exit. So now I'm back in dual language, and I just love hearing the students help each other out because we work with our bilingual partner every day. So here's an example of them working with their bilingual partner. So this is something that my partner teacher did. we were covering homophones, so she had the students read together, and they were taking turns, which you'll probably hear in the background them helping each other out.
Camino a casa es muy largo y camino muy despacio para no cansarme. Necesito apagar la llama antes que queme.
And that one's kind of quiet. Hopefully you were able to hear that. But you can hear in the background his partner's helping him out so that he could say it, because the student that was reading it at the time, his first language is English. You know, he's one of our opt-in students. So this shows them, you know, how they're practicing. And again, this is shared with their parents so they can kind of see what we're doing in the classroom. This one's another example. So my partner teacher did this one in Spanish, and then a few weeks later when we went back and hit the same TEK, then I did this activity. I did the other activity where they typed out their words, drew a picture, and it was just a quick review. And then here's another one. They read the passage again so that the parents see some of the information, and it's just a good way to hear them practice that language, and you know that they're reading it. And here's another one of our opt-in students. Let me just play a little part. Sorry, hold on. Let me turn that one down.
Recarga es gigante, puede cargar hasta 8,000 automóviles, puede cargar muchos alimentos, puede cargar miles de cosas,
So again, you hear, and I just love hearing them in the background, just, you know, encouraging each other, and it gives our student that's practicing their second language, it's giving them that support because their bilingual partner's right there, you know, helping them out whenever they need it. And then so my partner teacher did this activity. They practiced reading that passage, and then she threw in this little activity in Seesaw to where they told her 3 things that they learned, 2 interesting facts, and a question they still had about the passage. So, you know, that's something quick that you could do with the bilingual partner. Here's another one. And this one, they were working on map skills. And they just created the map, you know, went over each part of the map, and then they recorded themselves kind of explaining the different parts of it.
Leyenda, la rosa de los vientos.
And then again, so I just love using, you know, having them encourage each other, and then just sharing what they do with their partner so they can go home and talk to their parents about this. This is another example, just the same thing, just more working with your bilingual partners and helping each other out. So let's see. And these videos that I'm playing are opt-in kids where Spanish is not their first language, so they're learning it. And you know, they love being able to share it.
Vivir en la región suroeste, porque yo puedo ir a Puerto Bonito, Estados, Texas, Arizona, Oklahoma, y Nueva York.
So just some short clips. We use a lot of different graphic organizers, but this is a double bubble map that we used to compare 2 different stories. So they just completed it, and then each one of the partners took turns reading the different ways they could compare it. Here are a few more examples. These are daily 5 centers. So when I'm working with a small group, I have the students do daily 5 centers. This is just some examples that you could use to kind of keep up with what they're doing, because you want to make sure you're holding them accountable and that they know, okay, you know, I'm not just back in the center goofing off or talking to my partner. You know, Ms. Gutierrez is going to see what we're doing. So if they're working on task cards, I just have them take a quick picture of the task cards they've completed, and usually it's not going to be all of them because they can't get a good picture of it. So I just tell them pick a few and then read it so that I see what you've worked on. And just as easy as reading whatever it is that they did that day in their station. And then, okay, so just a quick about a little quick, I guess, examples, a few quick examples of some of the apps that I love to use with Seesaw. Just if you're at the point to where you want to try something different, again, it's just a way to encourage them and make it a little bit more fun to try a second language or even, you know, something new that we're trying. So Pick Kids, one of my favorite apps where you could go and you can just create a collage of whatever it is you're learning. You go Pick Kids. This version is actually, it used to be free. It's $1.99 now. So we don't get to really use it unless we use my iPad on it. But it has a lot of the search engine is filtered, so the students can search whatever images they want and then just label it. Or if you're doing a story, you can search for a character, or you could search for the story and find images to add, and then they would just label whatever it is. I also use Pick Kids to work on vocabulary. So here's bark, and I told the student, okay, let's find the picture of the bark on a tree, and then what else barks? Well, a dog. So a pen, a pig pen, and then a pen that they would write with. So that's, again, working on the vocabulary. And once they do this in Pick Kids, then they can download it onto their camera roll on the iPad and add it into Seesaw and either record themselves reading whatever it is that they worked on, or they could just put it in that way. Here's just labeling parts of a flower. They search for different images, put it all together, and then a quick example or a quick description of the different parts. And then Telegami. So these you can use, it's kind of like a green screen, but without you being in the actual video. So here the students, here's an example of a book review. So the student took a picture of the book that they read, and they create an avatar as themselves, and then they record themselves telling me about the book. And this one is just an example about natural resources. Here's one, I can play this one real quick.
This expository text provides information about who is tougher, Navy SEALs or zombie rangers. We'll discover an Navy SEAL survivor kit includes map, fire starter kit, flares, wire, signal, mirror.
So that one, again, I had a sentence sim that I had them use, and they told me about the book and then 3 things that they were going to learn. But they loved it because they got to create their avatar, and again, just explain whatever it is that they needed to tell me, and then you save this on your iPad on the camera roll and then upload it into Seesaw to share. Another app is Puppet EDU. This is a quick way just to take different pictures. You put them into Puppet EDU and it creates a slideshow, but you could also record on there, and you could also add labels. It's similar to Book Creator, but I think this one's a little bit easier for the lower grades than Book Creator might be. But again, you create your project and you put it into Seesaw once you download it. And I'll just do it.
Materials. Next, get a spoon of frosting. Then frost to a cupcake.
So that's just a quick, it just goes through each picture. Okay, so another way that I use it is just to share resources. So let me go to my sample class that I have and show you just a few examples I put into Seesaw. And this is just, it helps both of our students. So if we're doing something in Spanish, then I'll send maybe the slideshow that we reviewed for the parents to review, that they could review with them at home. Well, let me go back to this one. So this was just a slideshow that I created that we talked about, and it's probably not going to let me, but we talked about it and used the information in the classroom. So I shared it on Seesaw so the parents can now access it and they can discuss it at home. YouTube videos also, I put those in there if there's a story that I want them to read. Classroom videos, we do a lot of like green screen, just kind of explaining things that we've learned. So here's one that we did with doing green screen.
We're learning about text features. Title tells us what the text is about. Heading. Subtitle tells.
So this one I love just because I took pictures of work that they actually did and then changed the background to their poster, and then they explained to me. Another one real quick, fluency passages, of course, that we're used to doing, but this is, we had some parents that were asking for passages in Spanish for our opt-in kids. So my partner recorded one of her students reading a passage, and posted it on Seesaw, and then he took that book home, so the parent was able to practice with them at home, even though they didn't know any Spanish. And then real quick quizzes. I also add links in here that kids can practice at home. So if you haven't been on Quizzes, you want to kind of check it out because it has a lot of good quick reviews that you could use. So just real quick, you would go into your Quizzes account, you would click on the quiz that you want to do, and you would add it as homework. So once you add it as homework, you can change the date on there whenever you want students to complete it. You have other settings you can change down below, but then you would proceed, and then it's going to give you the directions down here. So all I do is select the directions, copy them, go back to Seesaw, and then add this as a link. So once I add it as a link, oh, and I can't see that because it's a little. Okay. Sorry, the box is covering it, so I can't see what I but you guys get it. And I would add the link, and then the students would have access so they could practice that at home. It would give them the quiz number, and then they could practice within whatever time you put it on there. And the last thing I want to share real quick is using Seesaw to keep up with their writing samples. You can rate them. You could also use the skills view to rate them. We have to do our TELPAS writing February and March. So throughout the year, I'll put in a few samples of some of the writing that they've done just to kind of keep up with it and to have them practice. We always write in our language of the day journals. But being able to put these in Seesaw, yes, oops. Let me go back real quick, sorry. Let me move this on the other side. Okay, so I go into the writing, and this will give me some of the examples that I've put in here. And I just have random ones, but you could put them, tag your student, and then once you go into the skills, if you have Seesaw Plus, you can add the skills view. You add your skill, and then you rate them. So I would do, if they're a beginning writing sample, I would do 1 star. If it's intermediate, advanced high, just depending on what level they're at for that sample, I would rate it. And then you can go back and look at the skills view, and this will show you, okay, so for this student, I have 4 writing samples, and if you click on it, it'll show you those. So whenever we come to, the time to rate, you can go back and look at a few samples and see how they've grown, or additional samples just to help you rate them. I just have them take a quick picture throughout the year of their writing samples and put it in there. And I kind of went through that kind of fast, so hopefully you guys got a few ideas that could help you out. I think that's pretty much most of what I have, Julie.
Oh, Claudia, this was so amazing. I learned so much. This is one of my favorite ones I've ever listened to because it's all new to me, and I just loved learning how you were using it with your dual language students. We have a few minutes. We can take a couple questions. So I do have one waiting for you that I want you to answer, but as we're finishing up tonight, please feel free to type in a question, and Claudia will answer it for you. Claudia, the first question is from Maria, and she wants to know if you can share the sentence stems that you were referring to. What would be a way for them to access those? Could you share it by putting it in your slides, or could they email you?
Yeah, either way, I can add a few that I have printed out that I have printed out on cardstock and just put them up in the classroom. And I also have a spreadsheet that I can include in the slideshow. That's fine. Or email it. Either way, just send me a quick email. That'd be faster. But I'll also include it in the slideshow.
Okay, perfect. Maria, hopefully you can email her. You can see her email address is in the first slide, I believe. So when you get these later, you can find that. Okay, so here's another good question from Fernanda. She's asking, what do you do to kind of reduce the background noise when your students are like recording or reading aloud?
I put up on the screen just kind of recording or a timer, so the students kind of know, because I try to get them to all kind of record at the same time. We're doing similar activities, but we're all kind of doing it at in different locations of the room. So right now, that's the only way. I used to have headphones with the little speakers that they would speak into with the microphone, and that helped a little bit. But they've been able to do okay, and I have them make sure to go back and listen to it. And if they hear any background or if they hear me speaking, too loud and telling them, okay, guys, put up our stuff just to go back and record it again. But usually they just spread out different parts of the room. They see the screen up that says recording in progress, so they kind of know, okay, we got to kind of keep it quiet and just record. So.
Okay, those are great tips. A couple more questions coming in. One is from Katie, and I can answer part of it at least. She's wondering about early years classrooms for language acquisition and how some of these activities could be adapted. Katie, I just want to remind you that if you go to ideas.seesaw.me, you can find materials that are specific to like pre-K, and so that could give you some inspiration or some ideas for what some of the most basic Seesaw tools and activities you could do with young learners. If you have any perspective on that, Claudia, feel free to weigh in though.
Yeah, just a quick one, an easy one would be reading the room. So just having them record and Seesaw different things in the classroom so they can name the different things like desk, table, pen, or maybe you're looking for words that start with A and they can go around the room and kind of record different things they see. So
okay, that's a great tip. And I know Angela, my colleague Angela at Seesaw, who taught kindergarten, always recommends starting with the camera and having students taking a photo and then writing on top of the photo or drawing on top of the photo. So that is kind of what you're saying too, starting with taking photos around the room too. I have a couple other questions here. One of them is about skills. And Maria, let me tell you about skills. It's part of Seesaw Plus or Seesaw for Schools, but you can activate a free trial of Seesaw Plus if you're interested. You can find out how to do that on the Help Center, help.seesaw.me. So if you have Seesaw Plus, do you have your code?
I could add it to the end of the slides. I meant to do that and I didn't. I can add my QR code to the end of the slides and that'll give you a trial version of Seesaw Plus that you could try.
Okay, perfect. So wait for that. She's going to put her QR code in there and then you can try it and that will activate your free trial. Okay, looks good. Anything else that anybody wants answered? I'm trying to read these in real time and see what else I can help you with before we wrap up tonight. I know we're slightly over time, but Claudia, perfect timing. You had just the right amount of slides.
Okay,
okay, here's a great question from Terry. She's saying, what if you don't want parents to see something? If it's just something for practice and you really don't want them seeing it, like what's your problem-solving strategy for that?
If you have Seesaw Plus, then you could always make it private. If you don't have Seesaw Plus, I would create a different class. So maybe a class where you just post things that you want to see, and you would be the one uploading it to that class. So it would be your regular class where they do activities in the classroom, and then you would have maybe like a private teacher class, and you would still add your students in there, but that one wouldn't be shared with anybody, if that makes sense. You would be the only one to see it if you don't have Seesaw Plus. But if you do...
That's actually... You're giving them a great workaround. That's a great idea. And the one other thing I would throw out there too is that if you didn't want to invite parents and family members to your class, but you want to activate the class blog, you could only publish things to the blog that you wanted your parents and family members to see and then not have them viewing the regular class journals. So, I mean, that's another workaround as well, but that's a really good tip. Okay, one last question, and Claudia, you will have some perspective on this. It's coming from Sharon. She's saying, do you think that Seesaw is just as easy on a Chromebook? She's used to, well, I don't know if she's used to iPads. I know you and I are used to iPads, but she's saying, do you think it would be just as easy on a Chromebook?
The majority of the activities, it's still a learning curve for me because I'm used to the iPads, but there's still plenty of activities. The biggest issue I see is just taking pictures. If you don't have a camera on your Chromebooks and they can't go around and take their own pictures. But if it's something you want the whole class to do, you could always take the picture and share it with them, and then they could still go in and make changes or whatever you need them to do. But I'm still learning some of the different things you could do on the Chromebooks, but it's definitely doable.
Okay, totally well said, Claudia. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I learned so much, and I know you did too. You've put lots of awesome compliments and feedback for Claudia in the question box, so we know you're learning a lot. So thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to fill out that survey that's going to pop up on your screen, and then join us again for another webinar sometime soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you.